Another finals and another absolute banger. We had Pete not dropping on Clix, but then ends up winning back-to-back Trio Cash Cup finals. He's now sitting at 10 wins in a row in the Trio Cash Cup finals. We also have Queasy on an insane run over on EU right now. I want to talk about how they're doing so incredibly well. We also have to talk about the sad news of MrSavage retiring. Why has he retired? What's he doing in the future? And is he going to come back to competing in the future? There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Before we get into talking about the Trio Cash Cup finals, we have to take a moment to talk about MrSavage retiring for competitive Fortnite. It does kill the vibes a bit. It's a sad one, but he's not gone for good. He said he's going to stick around the community. He's still going to make a bunch of content. He wants to IRL stream, just stream Fortnite for fun, maybe some watch parties, some other stuff here and there. He's still got the Pro-Am coming up in a few months as well, so it's not a complete goodbye to MrSavage. He's not disappearing from the Fortnite scene. He's not going to play another esports, so it doesn't hurt quite as bad as Benji, but if you watch the announcement on stream, it kind of came out of nowhere. MrSavage tweeted out announcement in a few hours. He went live and his title was quitting competitive Fortnite. I was like, look, MrSavage, not normally one to bait for attention, but this seems kind of crazy. He just came 8th in grand finals. Let me see what it is. And then he played a 15-minute video recapping his entire career, and I was basically speechless the whole time. MrSavage has been one of the faces of competitive Fortnite since before he was even old enough to compete. He's been doing this for like 7 years. He said over a third of his life he's spent competing on this game. So he kind of talked for a while about his reasons. He was pretty choked up. He was struggling to explain it exactly, but basically he hasn't had fun playing the game. He's only really had fun playing with Mongrel. After he played with Vidil, he said basically he was pretty much going to quit Fortnite. Didn't really know what he was going to do. Picked up Mongrel. They had so much fun. It reignited his love for the game, but that also faded even playing with Mongrel. Mongrel's now got a new trio. He's not really finding a trio, and again, I don't want people to start saying this is Panzer's fault, this is Thomas HD's fault. A bunch of people are getting blamed now for why Savage is quitting. He said he's felt like this for such a long time. Not being able to find a trio obviously made him have to sit back and evaluate what he wants to do, but he said he's even gotten some really good trio options that he did consider playing with, but he just doesn't love the game anymore competitively. He just doesn't have time to pursue other things he loves. He feels like when he streams, the content's not that good when he's not enjoying the game, so he wants to take a step back. He might come back and compete at some point, but it does look like for the most part this is the end of MrSavage competing in Fortnite. All right, bit of a vibe switch before we get too sad, doom and gloom. Let's talk about the Div 1 Cup finals, and of course we're going to kick off talking about Cold, Peterbot, and Poyo absolutely dominating 491 points, playing 6 matches and winning 3 of them with 62 eliminations. Absolute pop-off performance after all the drama yesterday. I'll recap why Pete's not dropping Lone Wolf, but we have to take a moment and acknowledge this is Peterbot's 10th Trio Cash Cup finals win in a row. This record now spans chapters. He had the flawless season last season in Cash Cups, came unstuck in Grands, but he got 6, I think it was, Cash Cup wins in a row last season. He's now gotten the first 2 of this season, and he even won the last ones at the end of Chapter 5. So 10 Trio Cash Cup finals in a row. Absolutely disgusting. Now, we did do it from Crime City, so I made a whole video yesterday recapping this, and after I filmed the video, I put a little Sleepy Antics cut in. Peterbot did tweet out that him, Poyo, and Cold are going back to Crime City. Now, there's a lot of people, myself included, who aren't 100% sure of that. We're like, wait, this could be a bait. We've seen teams like Teeny do this before. Seems a little bit strange. It sounds likely, but we'll see what happens. It turns out Peterbot did change his mind. We got no real word from Peterbot, Poyo, or Cold on why they changed their mind. Again, I did talk in the video about how they made the decision without Peterbot before he even woke up. When I was talking to him, in fact, in his call, he didn't seem super convinced on going there. He said, look, we talked about it. It's got the splash. It's a good drop. It now has the minigun, but it didn't sound like usual Peterbot. And I was kind of confused for that. So I wasn't super surprised to see them go back on it, but it was big for the Clix fans. Clix is now uncontested again at Lone Wolf Lair. Again, it's now arguably the best drop on the map, but I need to point out it's not getting the minigun anymore. And this might be a factor in why Peterbot didn't want to go there anymore. He did say if the minigun gets taken out, they're still going to keep contesting, but I think a lot of people are starting to think that the new update to competitive Fortnite with the crazy new mythics and all that isn't meant to be in competitive. Because I talked about in yesterday's video, players have now gone and unlocked the future levels of the quest that lets you into the vault, and one of them allows you to get dill bits from the chests inside the vault, inside the black market. So we now have the teams at Magic Mosses and at the fields dropping straight onto the black market, walking in, opening a chest, getting a dill bit, and then buying the minigun or buying the drum gun. So Clix's team wasn't even getting the minigun most of the games in finals. There's a couple games they did where I think the opposite team wanted to get the assault rifle instead. They liked the collateral AR more, but the minigun didn't end up being as big of a factor as what we thought it was going to be because it wasn't bought by the teams that get the vaults anyway. So Clix is not going to have control of the minigun unless the team at Magic Mosses doesn't want to buy it. So it's still a phenomenal drop according to most people. It's still better than Crime City. I think honestly, potentially it is still better than Crime City as well, but that could have been a factor in Peterbot's team going back, knowing that it's going to be taken out of the game anyway, because it doesn't make sense that you go into public matches and you have to play for like 2 hours to level up your quest to then be able to have a massive advantage in competitive Fortnite. It just doesn't seem like it's meant to function this way. I feel like that door is just meant to be locked in competitive, and the pub's quests aren't meant to affect the game at all, but Fortnite's either taking their time to fix it or they don't know how to fix it in competitive because it just doesn't seem right. The team that was dropping over at the Fields, DG, in NA Finals, they didn't know about this, so they just couldn't buy the drum gun. So Acorn's team was getting it. It just doesn't sound a bit right. Because they didn't play enough pubs, they now can't get loot in competitive. We've never seen this before. It's been a bit of a roller coaster for Clix and Peterbot over the last few days of getting their jobs buffed, contested, not contested, get the gun, don't get the gun. It's been up and down, but Peterbot did back up their decision not to land at Lone Wolf Lair. Whatever you think their reasoning is, maybe they'll explain it more in the coming days on social media, but Crime City is still clearly the POI for Peterbot. It wasn't so much for Veno and EU, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but Clix, Higgs, and Yomzo without the minigun still came second on 345 points. Not a bad performance by any mean. 6th, 12th, 2nd, and 8th. Really solid, but again, as always with the story of Peterbot, it's just not enough. Peterbot dropping multiple double-digit games with wins. A 15, 13, and 12 elims wins on top of a 7 elim 8th, 6 elim 6th, and 9 elim 4th. It's just too many elims to contend with and multiple wins. Awesome shout out to Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx. Their first time going Seaport City ever in a tournament, and they come 3rd overall on 316. Started a little bit slow, a 17th, a 12th, but then they got a 7th, 4th, 1st, and 2nd with their last 2 games being double-digit elims. So Vidal, Cooper, Sphinx, despite leaving Mars Meadows, leaving Acorn uncontested, went on to do even better than Acorn's team while uncontested. We then had Shadow, Curve, and Tyler, new trio that's reformed again after splitting for a couple weeks there and picking up Mason, doing the whole Cypher PK, you know, Mason, Shadow, like whatever happened there. Now we're back to Shadow, Curve, and Tyler. They're back to Kappa Factory. They came 4th overall. And then rounding out the top 5, we had Aegis, Ritual, and Acorn in 5th on 247. A bit of a disappointing performance from a team I have a lot of hope for right now with uncontested Mars Meadows. Actually doing worse while uncontested than contested, which is kind of crazy. And then in 6th place, I did want to give a shout out to our NA West FNCS champs, Barker, Pars, and Pump, who got a 17 elimination win in the finals, and it all came down to them having the minigun on high ground. So even though the minigun didn't play a big impact for Clix's team, some of the teams that got it, who got on high ground or played really aggressive with it, really got some good value out of it. A 17 kill win from a team that's not even competing on Central this season. Now, for once, Peterbot didn't have all of the spotlight when it came to competitive Fortnite this weekend. We now have Swizzy, Queasy, and Mustache also winning back-to-back Cash Cup finals, the first 2 of the season, finishing on 506 points. Yes, Queasy's team got more points than Peterbot, even with Peterbot getting 3 wins out of 6. So Queasy's team had 3 wins as well, but they got a 7 elim win, 8 elim 4th, 14 elim win, 7 elim 2nd, 4 elim 2nd, and a 13 elim win. An average placement of 1.83 in a trio Cash Cup finals. Queasy played phenomenal. Out of Seaport City, they are looking so good right now. Queasy put on, honestly, an IGL masterclass. I would love Rehub or someone to do a VOD review on this. I know you guys are looking at me. I've just got too much content going on right now. I would love to figure out what it is this team is doing to make their games so incredibly strong. Every time Queasy's team is capped out on Surge, rotating dead side, going in a storm, rotating in, it was just honestly beautiful to watch Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache play. I think a lot of people forgotten just how good Queasy is because he keeps being contested for so long. Finally uncontested, finally unleashed. We're seeing what Queasy can do, and it is honestly phenomenal. 506 points is such a big performance. They are doing this with no mythics, no black market loot. They do have the Seaport City vault, so they're getting some gold to buy, you know, big pots and other things from the vending machine, but they're not doing with any crazy mythics or any crazy strategies. It's just really good fundamentals from Queasy. Now, we had Ping, Wox, and Malabuka come in 2nd, so we have Lone Wolf Lair coming 2nd on both EU and NA. We had Malabuka on 3 312 points. Really consistent placements. Honestly, very similar match history and points to Clix. Clix's team getting about 30 more points than them, but again, really consistent placement, all inside the top 10, just not getting enough elims and not getting those top 3 placement points. Then we had Seti, Hari, and Cammy. Again, another team that has been disrespected for so long now while being contested. Queasy and Cammy, both such good examples of why when big teams are contested, you can't just start assuming they're washed because they're not placing well. As soon as they go back to uncontested, they go back to top 3 teams on their regions. It's honestly unbelievable. Then we have Vanya, Pixie, and Marius in 4th place. They have been playing really well to kick off the season. That's now a 2nd and 4th. And then we had probably one of the most surprising placements of the whole tournament. Vico, Veno, and Flixie in 5th on 269 points. They got a 7th, 3rd, and a 4th, but they had a 19th, 16th, and 16th, and it's because Veno is now contested at Crime City. 2, I think, or 3 of the 6 games getting dropped on by Jules' team out of nowhere. Surprise con, it got a little bit ugly, and now Veno's team has decided after this Cash Cup, they're no longer dropping Crime City. They're going to be going Masked Meadows. So whether that's because they'd rather just be contested at Masked Meadows, or they think they can get Masked Meadows unconned, and now Crime City they're going to get contested, I'm not entirely sure. I did talk about in yesterday's video, Crime City is an annoying POI to try to hold down, because if teams contest you, it's not a 50-50. They can land on the backside of Crime City. They can take some loot, land on the mountain, rotate out. It's not a very small, condensed POI like Lone Wolf Lair is. You can try to drop on it, take the loot, and get out, which slows down everything. It means you don't get the train. Your loot route is super slow. It does give teams an invite or makes them think they can have a better performance. So Veno's team switching to Masked Meadows. Rezon, who is going Masked Meadows, has now said that he's going Crime City instead, but he's also going to be going up against Chap, Shark, and Kiddo. They had another disappointing performance at the Shafts. They're sick of being triple con in the mines. They're now going to try and lock down Crime City, which I'm very, very excited to see. There are some other notable placements I want to talk about real quick. Over on NA, we did have TK, Virgo, and Craze finish in 7th, despite not even being a real trio. Craze has been doing really well, not playing with Bucky and Ogus, while Bucky's on a bit of a break right now, and some of the Bucky fans are nervous. Craze might get used to these placements and just switch trios anyway. We'll have to see whether Craze does that. We had Rapid, Yapko, and Threats in 10th place as a brand new trio. Not a crazy performance, but it was one of their games. They tried to hold down the black market against Clix, which gave Clix their worst performance of the tournament in 12th place. If that could have been a win or a higher performance, the gap between Pete and Clix could have been a lot closer. So again, I talked about it a lot at the start of the season. It is going to be Rapid's team that's going to have the biggest impact on Clix's performance. We had Kanata, brand new trio with G Money and OSID, well contested, getting an 11th place. Meanwhile, Vert, the team contesting them, came 32nd, getting 6 points in the whole tournament. So Kanata, G Money, and OSID off to a great start as a brand new trio, even outplacing Muzz, Curly, and Rise, who were uncontested at the Shafts. We also had a few EU teams doing decently well on NA. Pablo, Marius, and Froxy coming in 19th, and Seti, Hari, Cammy coming in 15th, as well as, again, Fito, Cringe, and I think it's Xinox, coming 8th place overall, getting a 2nd and 4th on NA from EU. Had some big performances from the new trios on EU as well. Now the Kiro is Div 1, Pink, Nebs, and Kiro coming in 17th. Chris, Tayson, and Chicho doing far better than Tayson did last week, coming in 9th. Then we had Fito, Cringe, and Xinox, like I just talked about, on NA. So they came top 10 on NA and almost top 10 on EU. So very good multi-region performance for them. We had Pablo, Thomas, and Panzer. I think our first time seeing them unconned Outlaw Oasis, unless I'm incorrect. And they came 15th. So I don't know if they're going to start trying to switch drop spots. Maybe Pablo gets the boot and we try a new trio. I don't know. I don't think Thomas and Panzer have had the start to the season they were hoping for after forming as a new trio. We have Pix, Dam, and Damus, a Polish trio, and myself, and a lot of people have been gassing up. Unfortunately, having one of their worst performances in a while, now being contested by Trulex, Teeny, and Skivvy at Pump Powers, who did even worse in 24th. So we might see these teams potentially start to shake up. iDrop, Sky, and Scroll having another less than fantastic performance, but again, they're focused on trying to hold down Shiny Shafts. Apparently, they're not going to split. They're not switching drops. So if iDrop, Sky, and Scroll finally get uncontested, we might actually see how this team can do.